Glad to have you here, and now you can just share with the viewers. Once again, tell us the latest updates on this topic.
Great, Ingo, that I get to be here with you today in this amazing studio. And that we can once again bring a lot of things closer to our viewers live, because in the meantime, of course, a lot has happened in the field of research. And what's striking is that this paradigm shift is becoming more and more apparent. That means these various individual disciplines like physicists, biologists, consciousness researchers, and water researchers, but also computer scientists, are suddenly bringing together their specialized knowledge and creating complex ways of thinking. And entirely new things are emerging from this, things that concern us as humans, our humanity, our interaction with the universe. And that's extremely exciting. And today I want to give you a few more interesting insights into this. I'm really curious about that.
So am I. I'm curious. So yes, it's going to be very exciting. Today, we're also going to talk about solar plasma and what's coming from there. You also brought a slide with you.
Yes, so we've prepared a few things, but I think the most important thing is that we briefly go over, for those who aren't yet familiar with microtubules, that these microtubules actually belong to the most underestimated organelles, even among medical professionals. And what's interesting is that this microtubule research has also received support from physicists. From physicists, you really have to imagine that. What's happening in our bodies is being interpreted by physicists. And not only that, it's even being explained by computer scientists. Explained. And I find that phenomenal and fascinating. And these combinations give us a deeper insight into our inner workings within the body.
That's what you're talking about from researchers now. There's a lot of technology that's being replicated. We'll see that in a moment. I have already seen it for myself, all of the latest scientific research, and especially the new quantum computers, which in reality actually look quite a bit like complex microturbines.
Absolutely, that's incredible. So that means, to put it very clearly, technology is actually copying our quantum computer that we carry in our brain. And what is truly fascinating is, and this brings us directly to the heart of modern research, that we actually have complex electromagnetic fields within our own human bodies. That's actually still relatively well known in every organism, but what's special is that these microtubules, these sound tubes, these frequency receivers, when they stand upright, they interact with the surrounding cell water. And this cell water is crystalline. In other words, liquid crystals play a very, very important role here, of course, together with the minerals that form these crystals in, for example, blood plasma, but also in the brain fluid. And this brain fluid, that's another big mystery. There is also some very new research on this, but for that we would need a very special... We'd have to do a whole seminar on that, because it's truly remarkable what has been discovered and published in the last few months. It's downright spectacular, yes, especially because these are people, scientists, who are internationally recognized. And when they're neurosurgeons and they start talking about the soul, then things really get interesting.
That is exactly when things start to get really interesting, yes. So yes, the slide. Let us go ahead and move on to the next part now.
Wait a moment. Yes, I just wanted to add something quickly. What's special is this realization that these vibrations, which are caused by in interaction with the microtubules, with the brain fluid, with the blood plasma, and with targeted frequencies. When they interact with each other, very specific plasmatic information channels are created. We'll show those later as well, and they have a significant influence on how we think, what impulses of will we have, our decisions, and our feelings. And this isn't just something I'm saying. This was actually discovered by Professor Michael Lewin from Tufts University in the USA. That means, are we actually independent thinkers, or are we being thought, or can we draw information from fields? Information that perhaps we aren't even aware of yet, or that isn't accessible for certain movements, especially if there is chaos in the microtubules or in the body water. So that's also an important fact.
And that mainly has to do with frequencies. So if, let's say, bad frequencies affect us or our bodies, then of course something changes there.
Exactly. And that's why we also tried to put together a few demos so that people can really understand it. Maybe we can briefly go back to your point that was, well, the second thing that really fascinated me, that these quantum computer systems actually use these liquid crystalline structures in the microtubules to retrieve and combine information. And they have the ability to seamlessly integrate into vast digital networks. And that is significantly more advanced and sophisticated than the traditional silicon-based computing systems of the past. No, now you can truly say that they are almost in a certain way possessing a form of biological activity. Or as some might say in quotation marks, they have become living entities. And that's something, these are all things you really have to take into account when you surround yourself with such technology. Do you want to show how it swings the microtubules, which we'll also see later in the...
Exactly, we already talked about this in the interview and now we'll just show it. And we'll just play it now. And I hope it's not too loud now.
But there are also...
frequencies as well. There are frequencies. And exactly.
So there are harmonic and disharmonic movements in the microtubules, which can be specifically initiated by frequency influences. Can be initiated, and these microtubules, they are... So just to repeat, we have about 2,000 microtubules in every cell. There's a lot going on there. It's really wild. And when there's chaos there, then people are mentally off. You can just say that clearly. And especially children who are overwhelmed or bombarded with a lot of electromagnetic frequencies that are not harmonious, not biological, do not originate from a natural source. Then a certain chaotic interference arises. And that organizes structures in our body which can even lead to diseases. And that's the point. Why are we talking about this today? Because the point is simply to make it clear that we have the power through targeted frequency influence, whether that's through nature, through trees, or through individualized water, drinking water, clean drinking water. The supreme discipline is, of course, individualized drinking water, not just energized water. And that brings us right to the topic of targeted frequency influence. So I should also proudly mention the EIBA mech here, which I am also wearing, and which of course has a very specific effect on the water in our bodies and on these bodily structures, so that these negative or let's say disharmonious frequencies don't affect us too much.
And as we've just said, technology basically replicates everything. It actually imitates nature. And what we see here on the left side, that's a quantum computer. I didn't even know that.
Yes, that's actually one from Stuttgart. So it's located in Stuttgart and you can see it here. Do you want to show it?
Exactly. I'm looking at these tubes up there now.
Exactly. And right next to it, you can see very clearly that's a natural image from our cells. Those are the microtubules. And they have to stand upright and not just lie around flat, because we'll see in another image later, a top-down view, and there you can see that these are, because the microtubules exist as electromagnetic waveguides, and they are dipoles. That means they move, rotate, and create an electromagnetic field. And inside you then have this plasma channel. And plasma is an information carrier, and plasma is also used very specifically here in computer technology. And yes, so that means the crystalline liquids in this environment around the microtubules, they essentially form this computer intelligence. And we all have this in our brains, and we need to become aware of that. That means we are better than any quantum computer. The question is, do we have the ability to expose ourselves to the right frequencies so that all these corresponding harmonious, coherent movements can take place, which connect all the cells in the body with each other and also elevate our intelligence to a completely different level? That means in the modern era we live in today, The challenges we face are so extraordinarily immense that we really need to be able to depend heavily upon the use of certain tools so that we are not constantly hindered or delayed by the impending evolution of our world.
Exactly. I mean, I find it fascinating that this is actually being replicated in technology. So that still fascinates me. And if you look here, down at the bottom right, that's a mitochondrion.
Yes, so at the bottom right corner, the yellow one, exactly. And that's exactly it. Also interesting, the whole field of medicine. Sorry if I say this a bit reproachfully, but everyone is focusing on mitochondrial medicine, and that's really just, let's say, the engine and the oxygen producer. But the key that fits into this lock so that the mitochondria can even start up is actually the microtubules. And we can influence them through frequencies, but also through thinking, truly through focused, intentional thought. There are other things as well, which we described in detail in the interviews, what you can do yourself. Of course, we can. There are many ways to support this, as we discussed in the interview. But it's also about recognizing that there are crystalline structures on our planet that have matured over millions of years. And these also embody this high frequency within themselves. So the poles as well are very, very fast. They have a natural oscillation of several billion. They can generate vibrations, oscillations of several billion per second. And that is extremely interesting. And there is also some truly wonderful research on these gallium arsenide crystals, which we also use in Alvamec. And these are of biological origin. That means there are also artificially produced crystals, but they simply do not have this information from the library of our planet, where all these frequency spectra have been stored in them over millions of years. And I can actually connect with that. So shall we return to the topic of plasma? Yes, here you can see it very clearly. This is also shown as a demo. When you look at the microtubules from above, it's always difficult to explain. But with this demo, you can see it very well. So this is an electromagnetic field, which forms inside these tubes, that is the sound and frequency tubes, namely microtubules. And there, as I already mentioned in the presentation, for those who look into it, people talk about so-called black holes. But why exactly does this happen? Because as a direct consequence of this intense plasma movement and this incredibly rapid state of oscillation, it becomes entirely possible for one to successfully traverse various dimensional planes and gain direct access to vast information fields. So I think that many people who may be clairvoyant or read the Akashic records actually have such highly vibrating microtubules in their cerebrospinal fluid and in their blood plasma that they are able to connect to these higher dimensions and retrieve information from there. So we are truly capable, like a quantum computer, actually even much, much better, of retrieving the information that surrounds us and on which we focus. And what is truly remarkable here, once again, are these fundamental principles of plasma physics, which essentially represent gateways between different dimensions. This is certainly nothing new to us, because we also happen to know that solar plasma is a key component of this process. It's well known that solar plasma ejections always become stronger, and that this also enables the transfer of information. And the question is, are we...
This affects the microturbulence.
Exactly, that's where it's brilliantly designed. This solar plasma is highly electrically charged, electromagnetically charged, but it also carries information. And whoever is ready to receive, that is, whose microtubules are in the same, can process and accept information at the same speed. These people are happy. They experience, I would say, an evolutionary, long overdue genetic upgrade, and that the DNA can recalibrate itself completely anew as well. That means that even the strands that are inactive can start vibrating again. And as a result, also, this exchange of information can take place in the body, and thus new structures can also be formed. And that's just it. It is all about the structure. also reflects functionality. And if I have a perfect individually fitting structure, then all my organs function properly and perfectly as well. And now the real question is, can we achieve the next evolutionary step? And there is a lot we can do to make that happen. So we really should engage intensively with the things we harbor in our bodies. And also here we talked about Michael Ecknower, so that's the neurosurgeon. And that really fascinated me as well. Ingo, just imagine, he has actually demonstrably shown that people who no longer had a brain, their brains were completely destroyed, either due to accidents or certain malformations for various reasons. And these people only had the microtubules in their cells, the brain fluid, and through targeted frequency treatments, these people achieved top academic degrees in physics and mathematics, even though they had nothing in their heads. Really? That's absolutely mind-blowing. And knowing that today, yes, that fascinates me immensely.
Yes, that also explains why, while visiting the Body Worlds exhibition, I once saw a human brain that had been entirely ravaged by the effects of Alzheimer's disease. And it was also said there that there are people whose brains are no longer as they should be, but they are still highly intelligent.
Yes, and you also mentioned that there were also brains from nuns, I believe, who also sing and chant a lot. So that's also a very important topic because these vibrations play a major role in the overall movement of the microtubules. And the crazy thing was also that this internationally recognized professor from New York State University actually said, yes, of course, we extract the information through the plasma, through our brain fluids, from our soul. And the soul is outside the body, period. Yes, so we have to prepare ourselves. There are a lot of amazing things happening in science, and many significant scientists are no longer allowing themselves to be silenced and are encouraging us to think, I would say. And we must not forget, there is always a lot of talk about biophotons. So the microtubules produce biophotons in our bodies. When they vibrate properly, they emit flashes, and then it becomes really bright inside our bodies. And through this, we have access to non-local fields, to the neutral zero-point field. And how all of this happens through these rhythmic pressure waves and so on, this is now scientifically clear. So this is no longer just the fantasy of some esoteric or spiritual people. This is biophysics or biomagnetic research, which is also advancing into these fields of consciousness.
Shall we take a look at that next time?
Yes, so here we see another video just to show again how the water crystal, in other words, the brain fluid, is activated by frequencies, is activated. And we also see again that the electrons emissions from the gallium arsenide crystal, we've shown it here again as well. And it's truly wonderful that these organ structures, so when there are actually deformed organ structures, diseased or disharmonious organ structures, or physical and mental disharmonies, as they're often called, these can be corrected through individualized frequency applications, and this has now also been confirmed. You can also check this on ResearchGate. These quantum effects have been confirmed, the transmission of frequencies through the skin. I'm also wearing the crystal here. You can also wear it inside the body. These gallium arsenide crystals are truly something special because they have properties that other crystals simply do not possess in this way. But I don't want to go into too much detail regarding this specific topic right now. It is just important for us to recognize that there are a wide variety of different ways we can further optimize our individual physical health and mental well-being in our daily lives.
Yes, exactly. Then let's go back to that.
Can we manage to show the video as well? Because it illustrates it so nicely. The water field.
Exactly. Yes, we'll show that.
Great.
Very good. Go ahead. Are you finished?
I have completed everything for now.
Okay. Those were the cutting edge updates. coming directly from the latest scientific research conducted on the fascinating world of microtubules. And yes, you still have the opportunity to watch the interview today. And yes, it's always good to have an update and to keep that in mind. Yes, once again, thank you very much for being here. And yes, always happy to have you. If there are more updates, we'll probably get together again and present them.
Yes, and in the meantime, we'll let the microtubules rock.
Yes, exactly.